Good morning. This is Talking Animals on WMNF. I'm Duncan Strauss. My guest today is Stephanie Boydston, founder and director of Love Life Animal Rescue and Sanctuary, launched by Boydston in 2022 and located in Mayaca City, Florida. Love Life is driven by a fundamental commitment to rescuing, rehabilitating, and often rehoming farmed animals. Additionally, Love Life reflects a parallel commitment to educating the community, both locally and at large, about the importance of animal advocacy and veganism. Boydston appears uniquely equipped and experienced to fulfill the scope of both broad commitments. Work experience includes stints as a fundraiser for such major national nonprofit organizations as the Suman G.G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation and Make-A-Wish. We'll discuss that work, that journey, if you will, when I speak with Stephanie Boydston in just a moment here on Talking Animals on WMNF. Meanwhile, coming up later on today's show, I'll speak with Chris Porter, founder of Owl's Nest Sanctuary for Wildlife, an Odessa, Florida-based rescue and rehabilitation organization that tends to sick, injured, or orphaned wild birds, wild mammals, I meant to say, reptiles, and more. We're discussing Echoes of the Wild, Owl's Nest's first ever gala benefiting the sanctuary and taking place Saturday, October 4th at the Italian Club of Tampa. We'll have more details later in today's show. Also have a couple of announcements. In just over 2 weeks, on October 8th, WNS Fall Fund Drive begins, and I'll be raising money on Talking Animals on that very day, Wednesday, October 8th. As you might imagine, there's significant uncertainty and unease in the wake of both state and federal funding being stripped away. So more than ever, we really need to ask your help and support on these fund drives. So please visit WMNF.org, follow the prompts for donating now, etc. And then when they ask you to designate a show, I hope you'll, in the drop-down menu, I hope you'll select Talking Animals, TLA Talking Animals, so that our show is credited with your donation. Also, later in today's show, I'll be giving away a pair of tickets to Perfect, described as a meowvelous night of live music, comedy, dance, improv, and a costume party like no other. This event will be held November 1st at the studio at the Carrollwood Cultural Center and serves as a benefit to support St. Francis Animal Rescue, helping rescue cats and kittens find loving homes. Right now, though, let's discuss Love Life Animal Rescue and Sanctuary with the person who founded it, with a reminder that I invite you to join the conversation by calling 813-239-9663, emailing DJ at WMNF, or texting 813-433-0885. Let's welcome Stephanie Boydston to Talking Animals on WMNF. Good morning, Stephanie.
Good morning, Duncan. How are you today?
I'm doing really well, and I'm so pleased you were able to join us today on Talking Animals. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. We're so excited to chat.
That's great. Well, so I'm going to start off a little bit different, maybe. We'll get, of course, to the sanctuary and some of those other things that I touched on in the intro in a moment. But like many current Floridians, you're a transplanted New Yorker. So from doing this show for a while, I've noticed that many folks who start a rescue or a sanctuary, or in your case, both, really, there's something in their childhood or their early adulthood that kind of shaped them in that direction. So I'd be curious to ask you, what kind of kid were you? And what things were important to you when you were a kid?
Well, I was born and raised in Long Island, New York, and I moved down to Florida about 15 years ago. But as a kid, I guess I was into a little bit of everything, whether it was soccer and sports and music, piano, violin, that type of thing. But we always had animals in the house. My parents were big animal lovers. We used to foster with local rescues on Long Island growing up. It was my dad's way of teaching us how to say goodbye to things. So it's always been ingrained in who I am and who I am now as a person. Animals have always been a really big part of my life. So
yeah, well, that's really interesting what you said about your dad and kind of, you know, what at least one of the main objectives was for fostering and having animals in and out of the house. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think probably later in your adulthood that might resonate more deeply in some ways, especially given the work that you do.
Oh, absolutely. In order to be able to foster successfully, you got to give them up to be able to save another. So you always have to make sure that you have room in your heart and your home to be able to take care of the ones that need you most. So as soon as they're in, they're vetted, they're healthy and happy and you find their way to their forever home, it's important to always make that extra room so that you can stay active in the community to be able to help the animals that need most.
Well said. So looking back, given all, it sounds like there was a lot of animal activity growing up of one kind or another. Was there a particular animal that then or now struck you kind of as, if not favorite, the one that just kind of meant something particular to you, had some sort of profound connection with?
Oh, absolutely. Growing up, I was definitely the crazy cat lady in training. So I definitely have an affinity for cats, and now my affinity is pigs and pretty much all animals. But I definitely have a lot of experience with cats and dogs and pigs and things to that capacity.
Was there a cat that stood out when you were growing up that, for one reason or another, just really kind of spoke to you in a more profound way?
We had a cat growing up when I was younger. Her name was Willow, and she lived to about 18 and a half. Every cat and every animal that comes into your life leaves its paw prints on your heart, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Teaches you one lesson or another. So every animal leaves its mark, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So kind of expanding a little bit maybe on your dad's philosophy about why to foster and bring animals in and out of the house. Was there a particular family ethos more broadly regarding animals? I mean, over the years, I've heard about all kinds of sort of cultural elements within families that, ranging from our pets or our family members all the way to we all love to hunt and everything in between. Was there an ethos that you could identify, maybe looking back more, that wasn't maybe immediately apparent to you when you were a kid, but maybe now? Again.
We definitely didn't come from a hunting family, but just trying to help the community in the best way that we could, and we always wanted to have animals growing up, but of course, as most people know, having animals is expensive, so the way that my parents were able to introduce us and expose us to those types of animals was to be able to foster some different organizations so that the supplies and the veterinary care was covered and that we'd always have that connection with animals. And be able to help. So
that makes really good sense. So, was it mostly just cats and dogs back then? I'm just curious, like, when was your first exposure to other kinds of animals, including, of course, farmed animals?
Well, we had everything from cats and dogs and bunnies and guinea pigs and hermit crabs and frogs and all that stuff. But did
you do fostering of hermit crabs? That's pretty specific.
My first experience with farm animals was probably about 6 to 7 years ago, right here in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale. So I fostered 10 potbelly piglets through another organization called Good Karma Pet Rescue on the East Coast in Fort Lauderdale, and was able to successfully get 8 of them adopted out, and those last 2 that couldn't find a home, they ended up being my foster fails, Kevin and Griffin, the 2 pigs that started it all. They were 150 plus pounds and lived in my house for 2.5 years. So anyone who knew us back then when we first started, when Kevin and Griffin were little and they grew up, and you learn from those experiences. I had no idea at the time how smart pigs actually were. 4 times harder than dogs. The emotional capacity and mental capacity of a 3.5-year-old human. A lot of my pigs here know more tricks than the dogs do. They're trained. They ring a bell on the back door when they want to go outside. They're just such amazing and compassionate and sentient beings, and they're so misunderstood and so misrepresented in the community. Because I'm sure, a lot of people think that they're going to get a micro mini pig and they bring it home or they buy it from a fake breeder on Craigslist or whatever the case is, and they think it's going to stay 40, 45, 50 pounds, and then all of a sudden it's Clifford the big red dog, and it's 150 to 300 pounds, which is what a mini pig is considered. And guess where that ends up when it outgrows their lifestyle? It ends up at my house. So.
Yeah. And just as an aside, how did Kevin and Griffin get their names?
They were we lived right off of Griffin Road.
Okay.
Actually, I'm a huge fan of Kevin Bacon, the actor.
Okay, so that's both a homage and a gag at the same time. So
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So for people who might have just tuned in a bit late, let me let them know this is Talking Animals on WNF. I'm Duncan Strauss. If you did happen to tune in a bit late, my guest that I'm speaking with currently is Stephanie Boydston, founder and director of Love Life Animal Rescue and Sanctuary. It's located in Mayaca City and driven by fundamental commitment to rescuing and rehabilitating, and in some cases rehoming farmed animals. If you'd like to ask Stephanie a question or offer a comment, please call 813-239-9663. You can also email us at dj@wnf.org or text 813-433-0885. So we got slightly ahead of the story, but let me just back up for a second and ask you, what was your impetus, I guess, really, for moving from New York to Florida when you did?
So I actually used to snowbird a little bit, and I worked for Disney World during the college program in 2010 to 2011. And that was my first experience, my first time being in Florida, and just fell in love with not being, in the snow and in the cold.
Yeah.
Then I went down and worked food and beverage for about 10 years during my, high school, college, after college career, and managed a lounge in South Beach. So I worked food and beverage and worked at some bars and bartended and that type of thing. And then I landed my dream job at Make-A-Wish Southern Florida, and I was working with them for about 6 years before the rescue came about.
So yeah, tell me about that dream job and how you sort of connected with that, and why it was your dream job. I mean, did you identify something early on about yourself and your own kind of skills and inclination that made you think, this is the kind of work I could do and I'd love to do it at that organization in particular?
Yeah, so it's actually a pretty long and complicated story, but the short version of that would be my best friend growing up, who I lived with most through college. His name was DJ, and he passed away in 2019 from complications of muscular dystrophy. And went on full life support. About 6 years before he passed, he had made a list of all the things he wanted to do in his life had he been able-bodied, and wishing it forward and helping to make other wishes come true, the same way Make-A-Wish saved his life, as he always told us when he was 11, really stuck out to me. And in a homage to DJ, I applied as an intern with Make-A-Wish Southern Florida to be able to help make another wish come true, and just absolutely fell in love with the mission. And I owe all of my fundraising and nonprofit experience to the amazing team over at Make-A-Wish Southern Florida for, everything that I'm able to do in terms of sponsorships and grants and all the things that I learned during my tenure with them.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it was an amazing experience in a bunch of ways. And we might circle back to, how significant that is now for what you do, just because that kind of experience and knowledge is so crucial and so rare as people that find themselves running rescues and or sanctuaries. But they're always struggling with the financial side of it. So maybe we'll come back to that in a bit. But so was it part of the snowbird experience that had you kind of, those first piglets and stuff got you connected with that? And then were you just continuing to rescue and foster animals even as you were working with Make-A-Wish, et cetera?
Yeah, so during my time at Make-A-Wish, I fostered probably upwards of 200 animals with Good Karma Pet Rescue. So I learned a lot about, medical needs and veterinary care and things like that, bottle feeding kittens and puppies from the British Virgin Islands, guinea pigs, bunnies, you name it. I always had dozens of animals in the house that needed a place to go, where I was their temporary home. And my motto was always, if I have room in my heart and my home, I can't say no. And it was that experience with the 10 potbelly pigs about 6 years ago that really opened my eyes to a different sort of animal rescue, not cats and dogs, and seeing in the community just how underrepresented farm animals were. And during the COVID pandemic, when the world was shutting down, I quickly learned through my relationships with all the local county shelters in that area that when petting zoos were closing down and people were losing their lives and moving away and losing their homes, if they had farmed animals, anything considered not a cat or a dog, animal control was being forced to go and euthanize those animals on site because they did not have a proper facility to be able to bring those animals back to. So after a couple glasses of wine, I hate to admit it, but thank you, Pinot Noir, I called my friends over at Animal Control and I said, bring me the animals, bring them to my house. And within 6 weeks, I had 79 farm animals, from donkeys and cows and pigs and sheep and you name it. So I had quite a bit on my plate.
No, that's I'm starting to see this is a running theme, like pretty much say yes to almost anything, and if it's 70 or 80 animals, so be it. But maybe I missed something, but how did your house kind of circumvent the rules that were causing animal control to do those awful things to those other animals that were kind of...
Yeah, so I actually was renting a guest house on 10 acres in Southwest Ranches, which was zoned for agricultural. So we were legally allowed to have, lots of different animals there because of the zoning.
Okay.
That was particularly residential. So I became the open house to whatever animals, needed a place to go, and people quickly learned where we lived and started dumping animals at the front gate, throwing roosters over the fence, and just became very overwhelming to the point where when the world opened back up and it was time to go back to the office, I was like, well, I can't because I have 80 animals in my care right now that need me. So I had switched to a remote role with Susan B. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation so that I'd be able to be present at home and also be able to work and be able to, have enough money to feed all of these miscellaneous animals. And then about March 2022, I completely burnt myself out. I said, what the heck am I doing? I'm working, 60 to 100 hours a week just to feed the animals. And I knew something had to change. So I quit my job. I took a couple months off. I had, all my debts, my personal debts paid off leading up to that. And then June 2022, I said, I guess we're doing this. It was such a need in the community at the time, especially in that area.
Yeah.
Love Life Animal Rescue was born. And here we are, almost 3.5 years later, and 400 animals saved so far, and 211 animals currently in my care. So,
wow.
Never a dull moment.
And just to back up a little bit, because I was going to ask you, and then you sort of passed this with the chronology a little bit, because I was going to ask, at your busiest when you were, before officially starting Love Life, but when you were holding down the job and then had a house full of animals, what was that like? Can you describe kind of what that schedule looked like? Walk me through, if there was any such thing as a typical day, can you walk me through what that was like before you quit the job and said, okay, I'm just going to do the animal thing?
Well, for animal rescue, it's anybody that runs a sanctuary or a rescue or cares for different breeds of things out there. No 2 days are the same.
Yeah.
They are.
But I'm just trying to get a sense, because it sounds like it would be super long and exhausting every day between work and animal work and everything else that those things involve.
Yeah, and I didn't have specific, skills in those types of animals, so we were lucky enough to be able to rely on some really amazing veterinarians and clinics and, local friends and family that had experience with those animals that were able to hold my hand throughout the entire process and, be a mentor in that sense to make sure that we were doing everything the way, making sure the goats have their proper vitamins and minerals and making sure that everybody had their hoof trims and, everybody is spayed and neutered, up to date on vaccines, dewormed, socialized. And that's when we started educating, letting people know, hey, these things are super smart. They're friends, not food. They make amazing pets. You don't know what you're missing out on type of thing. And we were really successful in adopting out pet pigs and pet animals and being able to change people's views on those type of farm animals where it wasn't just it had to have a use at their property. It was filling the world with compassion and making the world a better place, one pig at a time. Yeah. From what we try to do.
So when you were kind of juggling both, how did you lay the groundwork for Love Life? I'm sure at some point you saw this was coming before it came and made some sort of plan, even though it sounded like you were just always likely to say yes to any animal that needed help, or any person with an animal that had a story that needed help. But for example, like it takes a certain amount of land, obviously, to support that kind of endeavor. When and how did you acquire the land that Love Life sits on?
Oh, so that's a really fun and amazing, outrageous story. But about 30 days after I founded Love Life Animal Rescue in Fort Lauderdale, I found out that the property that we were currently occupying at that time was being sold, and we had 90 days to move. As a brand new nonprofit, and with me not having a proof of income and no established credit as a brand new business, we couldn't get approved for a mortgage. So we had put out to social media and said, hey, if any of our rich friends or family want to tell us that we're Princess of Genovia, like, now's your time, because we're 12 days away from being homeless. I'm like, we really need a co-signer. And we had the most amazing angel donors step up, and we had a specific property in mind that we were really interested in, because we did a lot of research of, what specific areas in Florida were the most farm animal friendly, so that we wouldn't have restrictions on the type of animals or the amount of animals that we were able to intake and take care of. Because, every county is different. Sometimes it's, even with agricultural zoning, it's one pig per property or one cow per acre, or whatever the specific county is. And Mayaca City just seems perfect because it's unincorporated land and outside city limits. And, they're not as strict as what you can and cannot do in terms of the animals that you have on your land.
They seem, I was going to say, sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, they seem, Mayaca City seems particularly geared for that, because I know of at least a handful of animal sanctuaries of one kind or another that are there. So I figure, A, land must not be, must be reasonably priced, and B, there must be, favorable kind of zoning and other things that don't rule out having a sanctuary there, because it seems like obviously that's where you guys had identified. And like I say, there's at least a few others I can name or I can think of that have sanctuaries also in Mayaca City. So,
yeah, we love it here.
So once you got that kind of help, how many acres do you have at the moment?
We are currently operating on 10 acres. So we've got 211 animals here currently. We've got 6 cows, 2 donkeys. There's 69 potbelly pigs here currently, and 1 giant farm pig named Violet. So if you look at our social media, you'll see 900-pound Violet pretty much all over our Facebook cover page and things like that. She has such an amazing story, as they all do. There's 12 goats and 6 sheep and 29 cats and 9 dogs and, lots of handicapped chickens and handicapped ducks. And we specialize and have an affinity for handicapped animals also. So we've got some 3-legged animals, and we've got a blind cow. And, we were featured on the Dodo a couple years ago for Black Beauty, the chicken that lived inside my house, because she had a brain infection. So
oh, wow.
There's no stopping what type of animals come through these doors, but we try to focus on the farmed animals, the ones that usually would end up in the agricultural system, or slaughterhouses and markets and those type of things. But our biggest intake is owner surrenders, people who fall on hard times and can no longer care for their animals, people who have the ability and the financial stability to be able to care for these animals, but HOA restrictions say, hey, you can't have that here because it's considered livestock, even though it's smart enough to live in your home. So a lot of that owner surrender is a really big one for us, and about 50% of the animals that are here currently came from other sanctuaries that closed down. So we have absorbed quite a number of animals from about 7 or 8 different sanctuaries that no longer exist.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to, I guess, what I was going to say, starting to say before, and maybe I'll just elaborate a bit more now. But I'm sure you must find that all your development / fundraising experience and everything that goes with that has proven pivotal to launching and keeping Love Life going. Just because, the fact that there's a handful of sanctuaries that you've taken animals from that have since shut down. I think that I've seen that story, unfortunately, so many times where well-meaning people, find themselves running a sanctuary, which they didn't necessarily intend to, but they don't have the kind of financial experience or acumen that you might have for fundraising, et cetera, and they just can't stay ahead of the bills, the vet bills, the food bills, the other bills that are unexpected. And is that kind of what the experience was with some of those sanctuaries that closed down?
Absolutely. So whether the founders and the owners and the directors and the caretakers for those specific sanctuaries either passed away or grew ill or just physically and financially couldn't do it anymore, because as any animal sanctuary founder or rescue operation will tell you, this is very taxing work. I hope you don't like sleep, and I hope you like a lot of chaos and you thrive in those type of environments, because you got to be able to function on pure passion and caffeine at this point.
And let me ask you this on a related note, Stephanie. What do you feel like? Do you feel like you're at or near capacity in terms of 10 acres and 211 animals at the moment? I mean, if somebody still comes along with another owner surrender or some other kind of story, or another sanctuary contacts you and says, hey, we cannot stay afloat. We've tried everything. We just can't do it. And we have X amount of animals that we need to find homes for. Well, are you still saying yes to everything, or where does that tap out?
That's a tricky question, Duncan, and I'm so glad that you asked it, because, as an active sanctuary, we get anywhere from 5 to 50 plus owner surrender requests a week.
Wow.
A week. And, the second you say no, they hear no, and it ends up in market or somewhere else. So even if we don't have space here, which at the current moment, that is the case because of my ability to be able to care for as many animals that we have on hospice care right now, because I'm the sole caretaker and the sole everything here for the most part right now. But if we can't take it in, we help to find placement elsewhere. So we don't leave anybody out in the cold. It's not, no, you're on your own, no, go somewhere else, no, go away. We work with a lot of other sanctuaries, both in Mayaca City and around the entire state of Florida. We are a part of the active community for Florida Animal Rescue Alliance. That was founded about 3 years ago, and they are a networking nonprofit for advocacy, for different sanctuaries and rescues throughout the state of Florida, for us to be able to share information, share resources, help with transport and those type of things. So we just, log on to our network for Florida Animal Rescue Alliance, and we say, hey, we just got this owner surrender or animal surrender request for XYZ animal. Does anybody have space? And we all work together as a team to be able to make sure that animal doesn't end up in harm's way. So there's so many more networks and resources out there now than there were a few years ago that, we've all worked together to help to create, to make sure that we're communicating and make sure that we're touching base and keeping up to date with other sanctuaries in the area, because if another sanctuary fails, guess what? The other sanctuaries in town are going to have to pick up the pieces and make sure that those animals are safe. So we don't want anybody to fail. So we want to make sure that everybody is doing the best that they can be to be able to advocate for the animals in everybody's care. So it's a pretty amazing community. So
no, it really sounds like it. And one of the things that makes me think about the alliance that you've just described is, in addition to like when an alert goes out, like, hey, people, there's another owner surrender situation, here's the details. But also, I'd be curious to know, is there a matter of kind of sharing best practices? Because, again, the financial challenges that I guess that go with running that kind of sanctuaries and other things, are you guys trading strategies and information and ways to help pay the bills better or other things, so that alliance doesn't become part of the same issue that's the next week sending out a red alert like, hey, we've got some owner surrenders and we just can't keep the doors open anymore?
Yeah, and I wish that there was a perfect recipe for the perfect sanctuary and the perfect fundraising and sustainability for that, but realistically, there's not. As a nonprofit, people can decide not to donate at any time. For me, I've got a big fundraising background. It helps to raise millions of dollars for national nonprofits. But since I'm the only caretaker here for 211 animals, and 17 of which are on hospice care, getting medication multiple times a day, I don't have the bandwidth to be able to do what I'm good at in terms of fundraising and planning large-scale events and filling out grants and, posting for sponsorships and those type of things. So for us, we have to raise a minimum of $6,200 a month just to break even in terms of rent, utilities, operational costs, insurances, feed, hay, medications for the animals, and that doesn't even include emergency veterinary care, which
did you say 6,200?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So
that's a lot. So at that point, you've got to find the time to bring your fundraising expertise and magic to work, just to make sure you at least meet that minimum nut. And but I guess is there ever any way to come up with just enough more where you could hire someone, or at least hire someone part time? I mean, it just sounds like you're working like literally night and day, and just like you sound exhausted.
Well, that's the job description, isn't it? You do whatever you can. But yeah, in a perfect world, we'd be fundraising enough to be able to hire consistent care or bring on consistent volunteers that would come and assist with the animals. We're still new in the sanctuary world. It's only been 3 years.
Yeah.
So we're still establishing ourselves in what still feels like a new community. So there's a lot of improvements and a lot of changes that are constantly happening. For 10 acres, there's 211 animals here, but it doesn't feel like that. And we're constantly building out more enclosures and new barns and things like that to be able to make room for more animals that need us. We do charge a surrender fee to be able to make sure that the animals that are coming into our care get the proper veterinary care before they're introduced to any other animals, different quarantine animal areas, and things like that. So it's a big learning curve. It's not the same as raising money for 6 kids or 6 puppies and kittens, which most people have a large affinity for. And when you're filling out grants, that's what it's for. Children, education, or cats and dogs. And farm animals don't really fall into that that genre.
Right. So it's hard to get the kind of support and help that you need, it sounds like, just inherently, given the kind of animals that you are caring for. And what's the volunteer situation like there? I hope and assume at least getting some volunteer help now and again.
Yeah, so we have some consistent volunteers that come and help with special projects. The morning and evening feedings I can take care of, no problem. It, should really only take about an hour and a half, especially with the medications and whatnot. But when it comes to sorting through donations or cleaning out chicken coops or building new areas, we call on our volunteers to be able to assist with those special projects and even just come and socialize with the animals so that they are used to other people besides for just me.
Yeah.
It's not that stranger danger type of thing when somebody comes and is interested in potentially adopting one of our rescue animals. So, volunteers are the heart and soul of our organization. I myself am a volunteer. I have not taken a paycheck in more than 4 years now, so I just kind of exist, and I'm here. I'm here for it.
So if someone's listening and says, gosh, this woman needs help and it sounds like a cool operation, I'd like to help, could they go to the website, or how would they get involved to at least say, hey, I'd be happy to come out and volunteer when I schedule allowed or whatever?
Absolutely. So all of our information is on our website, which is www.lovelifeanimalrescue.org. If you want to apply to be a volunteer, if you want to make a donation, if you're interested in sponsorship or hosting an event, there's so many different opportunities for both individuals, corporations, or, different other nonprofits and things like that to get involved. The possibilities are endless, whether it's logo placement here at the sanctuary. We're working on different areas to have live stream cameras so that those things are prominent. If it's different companies that are looking for, in-kind support in terms of things that we might need here for the animals, whether it's food or different services, we have logo placement opportunities for that and for social media. So a lot of people don't realize, I don't have the money to be able to make donations, but just being able to like, comment, and share on different videos on social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, that helps with the views for us to be able to get monetary donations through the monetization programs for those platforms as well. We also have a Patreon page where people can donate monthly, even if it's just $1, $5, $10 a month. If we get enough people doing that, all those funds can go a really long way and could mean amazing things for being able to help even more animals in need. So right now we are, looking for both money and manpower to carry out our mission.
Let's say that. Tell the website again. It's lovelifeanimalrescue.org for any kind of help of anything of that nature. And I'm going to ask a few more questions because we're sort of nearing the end of our time here, Stephanie. So, one of the things I found interesting too is that about rehoming some of the animals. Tell me a bit about how that works, because many sanctuaries, at least that house or provide homes for farmed animals, maintain kind of a firm belief in the animals there. Once they get there, have a forever home and not adapting animals out. So it sounds like just sort of different philosophy. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, from the other sanctuaries that we've absorbed animals from, they've all had the same similar model where they take an animal in and it never leaves. So that they get full, they take in, they get full, they close down, and the animals end up here anyway. So we don't give animals away or adopt out animals in any sense like that to just anybody. There's extensive interviewing and background checks and reference checks and vet checks and home checks that go into making sure that the animal is going to a perfect forever home. And in our adoption contract, it says that they're able to return the animal at any time. So that way, to ensure, no questions asked, it won't end up in harm's way in any sense like that. And another part of our adoption contract is, if we check in and we feel like the animal isn't taken care of properly, we can confiscate it back as well, which is actually something that happened this past summer. We had to confiscate back 2 potbelly pigs that were adopted 2 years ago because the lady, even though they received mandatory education, and were always a resource for them, throughout their entire process, was feeding them only cupcakes and spaghetti for 2 years, and they were morbidly obese and couldn't walk. So we keep close tabs on any animal that comes through our doors. Once they come into our home, they're always part of our hearts and part of our Love Life family. So we are very choosy of where the animals go. We make sure that they never end up as meat and those type of things. And we have a, revolving door type policy that, if it doesn't work out, we take it. But yeah, I think it's important that, we're finding homes for these animals so that we can make room for more animals. But of course, that's the whole point of being a rescue and a sanctuary. We're not a shelter in the fact where people can just walk in and be like, hey, I'll take that, without a home tax or those type of things. There's a lot that goes into making sure that you have the proper setup, the proper zoning, which is super important for the particular animals that you want. And of course, farm animals are herd animals, so they do best in pairs or groups. So no animal gets adopted out solo unless it's going as a companion animal for an already existing animal. So there's a lot of different moving pieces that go into, rehoming an animal. And, a lot of the animals that come to us have behavioral issues or have severe health issues. So obviously, they're not leaving.
Yeah. Well, plus I'm sure there's always probably interest in pigs, and I'm sure any pigs that might possibly be rehomed are probably full growns, because one of the things that seems like it happens over and over, and you even alluded to it earlier in this conversation, is that people think a pig's going to be the size or stay the size, approximately the size that is when they meet it. And then when it grows way, way, way bigger, it's like, hey, I can't care for this pig, or I can't feed this pig. So I at least assume that the pigs that they meet at Love Life are full grown, if there's even a chance of rehoming one of those pigs.
Yeah, a mini pig just means anything under 300 pounds. So, we do it for education.
The term mini is kind of used loosely there, I think, yeah.
Well, if you think about it, your farm pigs, where you get your bacon and everything for, as awful as that is to think about and to say out loud, 600 to 900 pound minimum for those type of pigs. So
yeah, there's Violet, I guess, is an example of that range, right?
Yeah, so you got to make sure that they're having specific diets so that they're not getting obese, and they have ample exercise, and that they have, companion friends, and we want the best for every animal in the world. So,
Yeah.
creating a more compassionate world, both for humans and animals alike, and making sure that we're spreading correct information and mandatory education for these animals, so people get a better idea of, what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah, well, you're certainly setting an incredible example, and so I think that's great. So just in our last moment here, Stephanie, what does the future of Love Life look like to you? I mean, what do you want the future to look like for the sanctuary?
Oh, I hate to spoil any plans, Duncan, but we are in the works of some pretty amazing things here at the sanctuary, thanks to our amazing angel donors at Zen Elite Equestrian. But we are in the process for the last year and a half now. It's a long story, but they have constructed a 7,000 square foot steel barn for us to be able to have an adoption center and our own veterinary suite here at the sanctuary.
Oh, wow.
To be able to help not only our animals, but other animals that are in need in the community. So there's a lot of really big plans. I have been dreaming this up since before I started the sanctuary, and it's just slow moving in terms of construction and permitting and those type of things. The hurricane last year, Hurricane Milton, really was a huge setback for us. We lost a lot in that hurricane. No casualties for the animals, which was most important, but, entire duck coops and sheds and all of our shade trees and our entire porch, and just a lot of damage for fences and things like that. And we're still, to this day, a year later, still rebuilding from that storm. So just never a dull moment, but there's some really amazing, inspiring things on the horizon, which we're so excited about. So
Sounds super exciting, and it sounds like some major changes are on the way. So let me just one more time say the website for anybody who wants to help out in any way, from volunteering to help supporting these efforts. You can go to lovelifeanimalrescue.org. So Stephanie, thanks so much for joining us today, and thanks for all your great work. And obviously you're as committed to these animals as you could possibly be, and I hope some help is on the way, and keep up the good work, and thanks again for joining us today on Talking Animals.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Duncan.
Thank you.
And for everyone listening, thank you.
In a moment, I'll speak with Chris Porter, founder of Owl's Nest Sanctuary for Wildlife, about their first fundraising gala, Echoes of the Wild, slated for Saturday, October 4th at the Italian Club of Tampa. We'll learn more about that event in the sanctuary in a moment on Talking Animals on WNF. Right now, though, we're going to step into the Comedy Corner with a piece from Eddie Izzard. It's called Horse Whisperer, from Eddie Izzard in today's Comedy Corner on Talking Animals on WMNF.
Horse whisperers, very touchy-feely horse trainers. Oh, there, boy. Oh, how tall are you? 15 hands. Oh. You got 15 hands? You're Martian. A Martian horse over here. Oh, I see. 15 hands. Right. Glad we didn't measure it in feet. Everything's measured in feet except horses, which are measured in hands. What happened there? Someone should be... I'm 9 bottoms tall, you know. Really? Are you? Yes. See that building? That's 29 bottoms high. He's 3 thighs tall. 4 kneecaps and a budgie gap. Horses measured in hands. What the... Anyway, the horse whisperers obviously, let's see. Horses going, I can't quite hear what you're saying, actually. I'll tell you what I said was, why don't you... No, I still got quite big enough. Just seem to be going... Horse shouters should get a lot further, shouldn't they? Walk forwards, you, walk forwards. Walk, or I hit you with this. Child.
That was Eddie Izzard in today's Comedy Corner with a piece called Horse Whisperer, of course, taken from his album Live from Wembley. Now it's time to talk with Chris Porter, founder of Owl's Nest Sanctuary for Wildlife, about their forthcoming fundraising gala, Echoes of the Wild. Let's hear more about both by welcoming Chris Porter back to Talking Animals on WNF. Morning, Chris.
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Really great. Thanks for joining us on Talking Animals.
Well, thanks for having us. We're very excited.
Sure.
We love talking to you.
Yeah, well, we spoke at length about 4 or 5 years ago about Owl's Nest Sanctuary for Wildlife, but just as a at least kind of brief reminder / overview, tell us about the sanctuary. It has kind of a unique focus, I think, as some of these sanctuaries go.
Right. So Owl's Nest Sanctuary is actually 10 years old. It's hard to believe, next month. And we started just on a whim. I'm a retired zoologist from Busch Gardens. I worked in the animal nursery there for 12 years, and this was just help a friend out with some bunnies, and 10 years later now we cover 12 counties for Florida Fish and Game, rescuing animals. We rescue, rehabilitate, and get them back out to the wild. We started at my house, and we outgrew my house in 5 years, and then we're blessed with a great property in Odessa. So we do rehabilitation on all the Florida natives, from coyotes on down, from bald eagles on down. So we have state and federal permits. So we are swamped all the time.
No doubt. And how do animals wind up there? I'm sure there's various methods, but do people find an animal and say, "Oh, this needs help, let me contact"?
Right. So the channels have gotten better over the years of how to find help. I think when I started, it was really impossible. There's ways people do know to call Florida Fish and Game Hotline, and they give out the list of rehabbers that are permitted. So that's one way. The other way is, of course, social media. It's a firestorm on there. If you put up something, I get tagged probably hundreds of times of the day. I started giving up looking at it because there's just no way to keep up with it. So they tell people to, in our case, we ask for a picture, text me and tell me what's going on because I'm so busy. And then, I send out my rescuers.
Wow, sounds like it's nonstop.
Yes, we've had a very busy spring with a lot of baby mammals. We did 6 baby otters. We have 4 bobcat kittens that were abandoned one way or another.
Wow.
The gray fox, the red fox, we've been swamped with mammals, and lots of birds.
And I guess what the operation is just sort of funded by donations primarily?
Right, yeah, there is no funding. We don't get paid by the state, or we don't get paid by anybody, actually.
Yeah.
So it's all by the blessings of who donates to us, and Owl's Nest is very fortunate over the years. I mean, the people keep us running. They know what our mission is. They know how hard especially my small mammal fosters, my possum team, and my squirrels. They do probably, if they don't, I know they got to do more than anywhere in the state. They probably do more than anyone in the United States. My possum team has taken in 970 possums.
Oh, my goodness.
March. So they're like a well-oiled machine that I don't mess with them much. I am there for medical and support. So they've got it down. Lots and lots of baby possums, hurt possums. So, yep. So,
yeah. Well, it sounds like one of the things that will be helpful then, just in terms of supporting the operation, is this gala coming up, Echoes of the Wild. So how did you decide to organize? This is your first one.
Well, yeah, it's kind of, I thought about it over the years, and then I'm so busy, I just didn't want to add, honestly, one more thing and just think of how big it would be.
Yeah.
So this year we decided to give it a chance because I teach interns for the colleges on my days that I'm there. So I have USF, UT, Eckerd, even UF, Polk, University. So the kids make the difference because of their excitement level, and they're willing to help. So I said, okay, let's try this. And yeah, it's a lot. I had people tell me we weren't going to be successful our first year, and we're pretty darn successful. Out of 220 seats, we've sold 170. It closes on Sunday, and we've had a lot of the sponsorship program went off really well. People bought tables out for people they work with.
That's great.
Yeah, we're very happy, but we'd love a full house.
So tell me about like what people can expect if they end up at the. So let me just give a few more quick details. So it's called Echoes of the Wild. It's Saturday, October 4th. I think it starts at 7 p.m. at the Italian Club of Tampa, and.
Exactly.
So how do people make a reservation and take it?
You can go to our Facebook site. There is a link right there to buy tickets.
Okay.
We're going to put up another post. If you're a fan of Owl's Nest, you probably have gotten multiple emails We don't normally send that many, but this time we did, about getting, your table and everything. I know one more is going out. So the link is right there. If you have any problems, just simply go to the phone number and text me and say, I want to come. How do I get the tickets? And I can guide you to, because social media is confusing for a lot of people, even me.
Yeah.
So if you have a problem, the basis that just text the 813-598-5926 and say you want to come, and I will get you to the right place.
And what would people expect that night?
What ambassadors? Well, we have great food. We have a great Italian caterer that's doing appetizers. We have cash bar. We have a dance floor. We have a DJ. We have all of our animal ambassadors are coming. So
tell me more specifically what animal ambassadors.
We have a barred owl. We have a swallowtail kite. Oh, Lord, we have everything. Our reptile collection, from gopher tortoises to terrapins. We have our smaller birds, our screech owls, our American kestrel will be there. Our southern flying squirrel will be there. Unfortunately, I cannot bring our ambassador beaver. She is just too big. So
okay. Well, it sounds like you're bringing plenty of ambassadors.
Yes, we have plenty of ambassadors. I would love to bring Coda, but she would probably give me quite a hard time. So we do have actually an auction for people. People love Coda. So we have an auction that you can have an hour with her in her pen.
Oh, nice.
And so, yeah, we're going to have everybody there. We're very excited. I'm thrilled that it's been this successful, and it's going to pay. We expand every year. It doesn't, sometimes great people like Fuller Electric kind of hold the bill till I can pay it.
Yeah.
And, but this will help because the animal food comes first, and then I pay everything else. And so this will take a load off of us. We really need it with how busy we are. We try our best to get funds other ways, but this has been very successful. So we'd love to see you there.
Well, that sounds.
See you there. You can come.
Well, that might be. I live on the other side of the state, so sometimes it's tricky even to get to certain events. But this sounds great, and just the animal ambassadors alone sound very cool. Much less the rest of the evening. So it's certainly tempting. So again, this is Saturday, October 4th, Italian Club of Tampa. You can contact Owl's Nest Sanctuary for Wildlife Facebook page or other means to find out how you get involved or get your reservation or get your ticket. So, Chris, thanks for joining us. We've been with Chris Porter, the founder of Owl's Nest Sanctuary for Wildlife, and good luck on the 4th. I hope it's big success.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having us and promoting it. I appreciate it.
For sure. Take care now.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Coming up on WNF, it's The Conversation, the great show hosted by Mario Nunez and Joe King Carter. After that, it's The Scoop, WNF's brief news recap. Then we shift back to music programming with Sam Vall, pulling forth from 1 to 3, followed by Nancy C. hosting The Traffic Jam from 3 to 6 p.m. And it continues with Allie and the Sound Safari, on and on with so much great music here on 88.5 FM WMNF. So we have just about reached the end of today's edition of Talking Animals. I'll return next Wednesday, October 1st, with another edition of the show. And invite you to visit talkinganimals.net for audio archives of every show we've ever done for all these many, many, many years. There's also links to social media pages and more. That's all at talkinganimals.net. You can also subscribe there to our newsletter to find out about our guests a couple of days beforehand and other scintillating news from the Talking Animals world. I'm Duncan Strauss. Thanks very much for listening. Have a good week. Be kind to animals. Be kind to others. Be kind to yourself. This is Talking Animals on WMNF, Tampa, Brandon, Clearwater, Largo, Weeki-Wachee, and beyond. Stay tuned for NPR News headlines and conversation coming up after that, and more great stuff here on 88.5 WMNF. We'll see you next week right here at 11 on Talking Animals. Thanks.